How has your own perception of art changed over the decades?
This is a very, very good question you asked me, actually. Felt very responsible when I was buying art, almost guilty that I'm putting my family wealth into something that may be worth nothing. I don't know if these paintings I'm spending so much money on, whether they'll be worth more or...
Even had returns, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a big thing, right? And I wasn't made of money. I come from a very middle-class family. But what I've realized is that nothing can give you greater satisfaction when you come home and you meet your family and see your art. I mean this. If a painting goes away, when we sold the Amrita in the ladies' enclosure, even both my daughters were, I think one was 13 and the other was 15 or something like that. They were young ladies, and we had this painting for close to 16 years.
So they must have been attached to it.
No, so they became young ladies while this painting was aging with us. And for them, the sense of loss, when we removed that painting, I mean, it was a very lot of money. I can't say I was unhappy about selling it. I'd be a hypocrite if I said that. But there was a sense of loss, and no amount of money can fulfill that. At the same time, it's a lot of money for someone like me. And because I also feel a little responsible about, letting my passion go beyond my means, I have to keep doing that at times. But yeah, my taste has evolved a lot, to answer your question. So when I was finally at the stage and I realized I wanted to do a book, which is very difficult for me because I'm a private person, right? I'm a very, very fiercely private person. So putting myself out there was very difficult, but I decided to do it. I realized my collection is not really great at all because when I look at the chronology of Indian art, I didn't have the entire British period, neither the East India Company, who ruled us for the longest. I mean, the British only ruled us for 80 years. The East India Company ruled us for 2.5 times of that, right? Right from 1600 on. I realized I had nothing of that. So then, with great passion, I went for that. And then I discovered that art is more important than a Raza or a Sousa alone, who are great artists and who have fantastic grammar. But they are not history. This is history. I saw a Henry Singleton work showing the 2 children of Tipu Sultan being given as hostage to the British as part of a deal to make sure he stuck to the treaty. And that image of Henry Singleton was more powerful for me to then want to go and read about Tipu Sultan. Otherwise, I wouldn't have cared about reading about Tipu Sultan or what he did and where he fought and how he almost won.
It's about telling a story and absorbing it.
It's history. Art is history. I've never seen India looking so beautiful the way the Daniels have made it, or James Bailey Fraser, when you see the Char Dham, or when you look at the Gangotri, or you look at Princeps who had made Banaras and all the temples, or you look at paintings like Grindlay's and all these British artists, Edward Lear, whose paintings and drawings on Varanasi. So that became history. And of late, I've been telling your dad as well, for me, I found even the greater evolution into my change of direction on art, which is on miniatures for the last maybe 1.5 years. And I found that represents romance. Because to imagine, first of all, you have to see the fineness of those works. It is mind-blowing. And I would really, really strongly encourage you, Azan, to spend some time, whenever you're ready for it, to see some miniature. They used to paint with a single hair. They used to paint on 4 inches by 6 inches. There would be even 20 people in that scene. Each one of them would have the finery of clothes, the expressions, the movement, the backdrop, the background. Wish to imagine that somebody was working not in just natural light, but maybe with a candle, and maybe their eyes were getting spoiled just because they had to work in such finer details on such a small format, and yet be so detailed, and to finish a work after a year, one small paperwork. And guess who were the guys who were paying them? They were the Mughals, the rulers. So there was a gentleman called Bhavani Das in 1700s who actually, the Mughals were the only ones who used to get these artisans and pay them a lot. So Bhavani Das used to get 90 rupees a month from Raja Raj Singh in Kishangarh and he was the highest paid guy in that kingdom apart from the king. Even the general of the army didn't get 90 rupees a month because he was such a fine artisan. His quality of works was so amazing because he had trained with the Mughals, and then the Mughals had fallen by, the last Mughal to fall, really, forget about Bahadur Shah Zafar, Aurangzeb. And he had lost his patrons. So he moved to Raja Raj Singh in Kishangarh. And him and his son Dola Chand and Bhavani Das, they got 90 rupees a month for the duration till the Raja of Kishangarh died in 1748. To imagine getting 90 rupees a month in 1748 That's like about 1 crore right now in today's time.
I was just about to ask you.
Yeah, so amazing, absolutely. They were very respected. The guys who were really good artists, and they have a lot of patrons. Even with music, it was the same. When you look at Tansen or others,
Okay, so this is a work we spoke about earlier. Can you tell us about the decision to sell Tapovan by Raza and its impact?
Tapovan was a painting in, maybe not in that class, but that painting was deeply enrooted into the geometrics. This one was abstract. And this is the time Raza was coming out of Western abstraction towards geometric. So Tapovan means, meditating in the forest. Tapo. Tapo means to meditate. One is forest. And it had a huge patch of red, and otherwise it was very dark. But even if you dim the light under the museum quality lights, the red would reach out to you like you couldn't believe it. And with that scale, it was magnificent. And all over the period of time that I had it, which was for, I think, 12 years, it grew in value. A lot of people wanted it. I know the person who bought it. I know it's gone overseas now. And I gave it to Christie's in 2019, March, 18, I think. And it made a record price. $4 million at that stage was unheard of. It's again changed the market for Raza. And similarly, the same thing happened with In the Ladies' Enclosure. It not only lifted the market for Amrita, I feel. I think we saw, maybe it was bound to happen anyway, but when a great work comes in an auction, in a publicly contested auction, it lifts the whole market if a work does well. I feel that.
You bought Tapovan for 7 crores initially. How much do you think the work could be worth now?
Let me put it this way. Whatever it's worth now is far less than any money to chase it. You can't, you could put a price on it. So if you're asking me the price, I can hazard a guess. What is worth now will be always more than the money. See, what is it that we're really talking of, Azan? If I sell a painting for $4 million, it only states that I prefer $4 million to this painting because that's where I am. But someone else who bought it for $4 million, what are they telling you? That I prefer this painting more than the $4 million. Now, how do you value desire? That depends on who's acquiring it. How do you value desire ever? The value of a desire of Mrs. Nader, for example, is obviously going to be very different from the value of my desire. So it's all relative. When you ask how much the painting is worth, I don't know. The price could be maybe 60, 70 crores, maybe more. I don't know. Your dad, he knows a lot more about Raza than I do. But I think it would be a price. It's not what it's worth until someone with a higher desire comes and pays that.
Okay, so it's about your personal connection with the work rather than money pay for it.
These are unique assets, right? No Rolls Royce, no yacht, no Lutyens home can be unique. People prefer conspicuous consumption because you can be seen driving around in a Rolls or a Bentley, and that means you're successful. But art hangs in the privacy of your home, and only the very few who are invited to your home or are close to you can see it. So this is the way I think art evolves as an intellectual asset, as a personal asset, but as a unique asset which can only be worth something which no one can tell you till another person comes and says, this is my value of my desire. You can get a price always, of course.
What do you feel makes Indian modern art unique on the global stage?
I don't think we need an endorsement of a global stage. In fact, look at what the top collectors and museums want. They have collected more. Victoria and Albert, they have the best collection of the Mughal period and the Indian miniatures. That's what is purely Indian. I respect Raza, Souza, Hussain, all these.
But they've all taken from European.
But they were influenced by Western modernists, right? The style also has evolved from them. Many of the cityscapes you would see of Souza or Raza would not even look like an Indian painting at all. So, and I'm not demeaning anything. That I'm one of my favorite artists is Souza and Raza's works. But I don't think
it has that unique factor.
I just feel it's purely Indian, the miniatures. I think the indigenous artists who have painted Indian, they're pure. Raja Ravi Verma was, who blew the miniatures when the King of Baroda, Sayajirao Rao Gaikwad, told him that study these miniatures and make large portraits using that as the base. And again, I'm realizing that now. I wouldn't have known that when I started. So I don't think we need to be on a globe anywhere. By the way, I think Souza was recognized in the top 3 artists of Britain at one point. he's also been shown next to the greats like Francis Bacon and Freud, and that's okay. I mean, there will always be a Picasso who will, of course, rule the world. But there are great artists in India, and they appeal both to the West, they appeal to Indians as well. Avinash Chandra is another one who's probably lived in Britain so long, and I find him amazing actually, but has not probably found price again. The worth is much higher. That is for sure. I mean, price is what you pay, value is what you get. I mean, value can be much higher in art than the price you pay, right?
That's a good way to think about it.
Yeah, always.
How do you integrate pop art and street art into a collection steeped in Indian modernism?
So I love Koons, and I also love Fidea Felicity. I also like works by Brendan Murphy. I've also got a collection of skulls, which has been done by this Italian artist whose works I love. I think pop art, I don't understand pop art to the extent I should, but then I'm probably, that's a generational gap also. For example, I don't get the banana stuck on a wall with a duct tape. I don't get it, but I understand if someone else does. Similarly with Andy Warhol, his works never resonated with me. But I'm okay with pop art. I think pop art can be fun, pop art can be serious, pop art can be satire, and pop art can also be political at times. There's an artist, Yu Minjun, in China, who makes scenes with people with their eyes closed and smiling almost ear to ear. And that was actually, and he paints different kinds of scenes. He'll paint the Pope, he'll paint the president, he'll paint scene of surfers on the beach. Basically, what he's trying to do is, this is a Chinese way: close your eyes and just show a smile, because of the dictatorship, right? So he could actually create that grammar and build everything around it. And that's great. Art has to make an impact on a large number of people. And I think when it does that, it doesn't matter what genre it is.
It succeeds.
It succeeds. And I may not be having the taste buds, or I may not get it, but sometimes I see pop art which I love. I mean, I love Koons, for example. I just love those balloons because he's painting childhood, literally, playfulness.
And that's what you do have to look for in the modern world, where there's so much pure grit.
I don't think you sit and analyze that, Azan. That's, I don't think you should intellectualize art too much. Sometimes we think, yeah, that's what you're looking for, but not even. At times, it just appeals to you, seeing balloons. See, think about it. An average artist, if you told him to paint a child, he'd make a child. But a great artist would paint childhood. How do you paint childhood? Suppose I told you, okay, Azan, but suppose I told you, Azan, draw childhood. Now, how do you do that? You have to go beyond physical drawing to abstraction and bring that. So balloons, and twisting them and making them into a very pretty shapes like Koons does. And balloons are related to childhood, right? So why we never grow up, actually. Only the toys change. Don't kid yourself. No one grows up.
That's a good quote.
No, I mean, it's a fact.
What about modern? Is it Sousa?
I love Sousa. I'm a big Sousa fan. I'm a big Raza fan like you. Absolutely. But I love Raza's geometrics like you do in comparison to his Western abstract.
What draws you to Sousa?
Just the fact that he painted for himself, that he called it as it is. He said it as it is, and that he was brutal. There was a quote somewhere which someone said that it's important in art to become comfortable with the discomfort that the artist is placing you under. So if you look at Lucian Freud, you look at Francis Bacon, and their art is going to disturb you. It's never going to placate or please you. And that's how we moved from the period of Impressionism and Fauvism. After the World War II, classic and fine art went out of the window. You know why?
Why was that?
There was so many deaths. There was so much devastation between 1939 and 1945. People losing their family members, people seeing death in its starkest form, torture and, disease, that nobody wanted to paint fine pictures and make those fine, pretty...
Because that wasn't the reality of it.
No, and that's how Expressionism came out. The entire genre of Expressionism and abstract Expressionism, the world moved to that because they were moved. They were emotionally disturbed. They didn't want to see those pretty things anymore because they had been woken up with the rude shock.
And that's what created the shift to modernism.
100% modernism greatly evolved because of World War II. No question about it.
Are there any untold stories about Amrita Shergill paintings you sold? Or for that matter, any of the paintings you bought or sold?
I mean, yeah, sometimes it happens that you really wanted a painting. So I'll tell you about it. Yeah, good question again. Ludwig Hans Fischer made a beautiful painting. He's a very accomplished artist and he used to come to India very often. And he made a beautiful painting on the Taj. What I really loved about that painting, apart from the finesse and the quality, because he's showing the Taj in its reflection in the water. The perspective he took of Taj wasn't making Taj the main objective of his painting, but Taj was more like subdued and a little in the backdrop. And he showed it from the perspective of the few people who were next to the river behind the Taj, and they were washing clothes or whatever. And there were some ruins next to it. And I found that really amazing, that here's a man who's putting Taj with the objectivity of what it truly is. That yes, we called it a monument of love and beauty, but for the people who lost their lives making the Taj, or the people whose lives changed not for the better, despite living 1 kilometer away from the Taj. Life goes on. They're washing clothes next to the river, probably one for a morning, whatever, evolution. And the ruins at the back are looking as decrepit as anything.
You could comment on class.
It's a great comment, I think, on monarchy and what looks like just love and is probably a story of love may just not be not just love as well. It could be narcissism. It could be just someone putting up a monument because, as you know, Shah Jahan actually then went and married a lady who was the wife of one of his main courtiers, one of the main generals in his army. And he actually, after Mumtaz passed away, he married that lady. So we like to romanticize things. And we all believe in fairy tales. We tell our kids fairy tales, but life is not a fairy tale. They don't live happily ever. So I like paintings when they do that. When a painting takes something like the Taj and shows it in stark reality in a very good way, but it's again left to you to interpret what's really going on.
When you see an artwork, what gets you excited and makes you want to acquire it?
Well, I immediately know if there's an artwork I like, I would go to any lengths to acquire it. I'm an art addict. It's really strange, Azan. The brain has a limbic system, which is based on several hormones, right? You know that. And there's dopamine and serotonin. And art wires your brain. It's proven. You become an art addict finally if you've been into it very long. Actually, the brain seeks addiction. It's a proven fact, whatever it may be. So collecting, whatever you may be doing, actually feeds the brain. So your dopamine levels go up, your serotonin levels come down, you become OCD-ish. And I know instinctively when I like a work, but I can't give you anything that I love portraits, I love abstraction, I love anything that could be related to expressionism. I just love good art. Now, what is good art is an impossible question for me to answer you because I know what I thought was good art 10 years ago. I don't believe is good art anymore.
So just that gut feeling and your eye you developed.
It's what appeals to me without knowing why it appeals to me. It predates me.
How do you keep the emotional desire to collect art and the transactional part away from each other? Would you walk away from an artwork you really want if the price is just too high?
What a good question. This is your own question. My God, this guy's going places. At 17, my God, that's a really good question. I'll be honest with you. I don't have the money to buy what I can't afford. And that doesn't mean I haven't done it in the past, but I don't like to do things and run a debt or pay later. I like to pay within 48 hours. And I have that reputation in the market also. I negotiate terms if I need time, and it's very important for me to respect that hygiene. The hygiene extends to works, sadly, which I can't afford, and I let go. But there have been a lot of works that I should have bought, which I could have bought, which I didn't. I held back. Now that is a different story. But works that I can't afford, I love and appreciate and I like, but if I can't afford it, I can't afford it. I have to accept that.
That's true. What advice would you give to someone new collecting art?
First of all, I wouldn't want to give advice. I think it's very important to make mistakes and learn through your mistakes. I really mean this. I'm not saying it as a cliche. You'll never learn from anyone else's mistakes. That's so wrong as advice. It only hurts when it hurts you. And it's important to hurt because that's how you remember. Otherwise, you won't remember. If you learn from someone else's mistake, you'll never remember that rule. I think the best advice I can give is just go with the flow. Buy what you like. Your taste will evolve. You will not like what you loved 5 years ago, but that just means your taste has evolved. It's something to rejoice. It's not something to... See, we are all sailors at heart, if you think about it. What did we do earlier? We set out on the ship to find a new land. They didn't know whether they were going to die in the middle of the sea in a storm or they'll discover America or India or whatever, right? And I think even now with the urban life, what it is, I think we are all in a rut. If you think about it, last week was this week and next week will be this week. And last year was this year. Stardust of 1 year ago was Stardust of this year. I think art takes you out of the rut. I really believe that. And therefore, I don't want to give advice. I think go with the flow, go with your age, go with your... And it gives you a sense of aesthetics, whether it's good art, bad art. It gives you a sense of proportion. It gives you a sensibility, which no school can teach you.
Which artwork in your current collection holds the most sentimental value for you? Or can you not put them...
See, you used it with the word sentimental. The Amrita was something where I have a huge sense of loss having sold it. I don't have it for the top.
Do you regret it?
Yeah. No, I don't regret it because it was a lot of money for me. Again, someone's desire was valued for that far above my desire. So would I have sold it again at that price? At that point of time, yeah. But I'm humble enough to recognize that for me, where I am, the person I am, that is true. But I'm not the collector who will walk away from sometimes if I need to believe, wrongly so, that I need to take, let's say, backward step and let this work go to another place. And I'll tell you why I was very happy that despite having lost that work and emotion, because it's gone to a museum. Now see, that Amrita was one of the greatest Amritas, I think, out of all the Amritas, in my opinion. Okay, again, I'm biased because of my child, but just the romance it had, just the deep sense of Indian family, a lazy day, braiding of hair, and a girl playing around and people carrying farm loads.
She captured it effortlessly.
Yeah, it was lovely. The whole composition was amazing to connect with. I think I would have only seen it. My family would have seen it. The people who come to my house, the very few people who come to my house would have seen it. Now it's in the public domain. And that's the one great thing that happens when a great work goes to a museum. Then more people start getting stimuli for their desire, which is therefore good for the art market. So it lifts up the lake and it lifts up the boats and lifts up the ducks and everything.
If you could own any piece of art, regardless of price, which one would it be and why?
Actually, I would really want a Mark Rothko, which I can never afford, but I'd love to get a Mark Rothko.
Which work is it?
Any Rothko. I mean, most of his works are amazing because there's just two bands of color I wouldn't even care about. But I don't know. I think Mark Rothko somehow really, really appeals to me. Tremendous.
What draws you to his abstraction?
So, a lot of people say this, that abstraction is just, it's hogwash.
It's lazy. That's what people
say. But that's not true either because, see, you have many people who are great draftsmen. They were great in drawing before they became great into abstraction. A Mark Rothko, I saw the first time when I was 28 and it did nothing to me. I saw it and I said, big deal, humbug. And then I saw it, I think, when I was 10 years later, and I was very moved by it. So it's your stage of life. It's just the fact that there's great intensity which makes you want to almost cry in Rothko's colors. I don't know how he managed that. But today, if I see that, I think I'll be even more greatly moved by it.
Than you were 30 years ago?
I think so. That's my gut feel. I just think that, of course, anybody can paint the way Mark Rothko does, but magical what?
But they haven't.
Well, even if they did, it's just a copy, so it's not original. And I don't know how much time Rothko used to take and the depth he used to get in his colors and the layers that he used to get in it.
So for the final non-rapid fire question, if you could host an exhibition with only 3 artists, who would they be and why?
Souza for sure, Raza for sure. And although it doesn't fit into this category at all, I would take someone like a genre like miniatures right now because I'm so consumed by it. And that's the word. You have to be consumed by art willingly. You have to surrender. You have to be, I spend 8 hours every day on the net looking at art and I'm consumed by it. And I'm absolutely, I don't care if I've not had lunch sometimes because I'm doing something, I'm seeing something, I'm reading something. I'll have my lunch at 4 o'clock. It's fine.
So what do you look at? How do you develop the eye that you have?
Just by seeing more and more.
But what do you see in that time?
Right now I'm obsessed with miniatures for the last few months. That's what is consuming me. I've seen enough of modernists. They don't do much to me. They don't move the needle at least.
It's a new thing that you're looking.
I think it's a new thing for sure because I never appreciated miniatures. It's not that I didn't see them earlier. They never did anything for me. But now I'm understanding that and I'm reading about it and I'm understanding how difficult it was making your own colors, painting with a single hair, the detailing, using all the effects that they use to, imagine cow's urine and other things. Your dad was telling me the other day, that he read somewhere. They created their own colors, natural colors, and the glitter that they created out of the gold or whatever they used was amazing. And these are not people who generally had all the resources in these labs. We have regressed. Humanity has regressed. There's no artisan left who can make Taj Mahal. There is no artisan who can make miniatures to the extent it was done by people like Nain-Suk and Manapku and Pandit Siu and all the other. They're none. We've regressed. And I fear for us because of AI. I think we'll regress further.
What do you think the role AI will have?
It's going to be terrible, in my opinion. It will, of course, enhance certain things, which is great. It will allow you to tell fakes when they're not. But it also allow, as often happens with fire, you cook and you burn. It will allow arson in art. It will allow people to make fakes which are very difficult to make out. And it will also reduce human creativity, I feel. I don't buy this logic of, there's that Jeff Goldblum line in Jurassic Park that God created man, right? Have you heard that?
And man created God?
No, God created man. God created dinosaurs. God created man. Man killed God. Dinosaur killed man, or something like that. It's the same way. I think AI is so powerful. We have created it. No question about it. We don't know where it's going to go. I don't know whether AI tomorrow thinks we are the only species that's really, really doing the maximum damage. I mean, if it's picking up intelligence, it's also picking up intelligence of what's happening to the environment and who's doing it. It's also picking up the intelligence.
That's true.
So AI will get to see things more surgically, right?
My personal belief is that AI should be used more in the sciences rather than the humanities.
But you can't control that. How do you control that? That's like saying nuclear power should have always been for peaceful purposes, but we all know have gun will use it.
Now, on a lighter note, moving on to the rapid fire question.
I'm scared.
So, regarding your personal preferences, modern art, contemporary art, or antiquities?
At the moment, antiquity.
Souza or Tayyar?
Souza, any day.
Gaitone's abstract calm or Hussein's energetic strokes?
Any day, Gaitonde.
Art books or podcasts?
For me, art.
Art as a mirror of society?
I think everything is a mirror of society. Politics is a mirror of society. Media is a politics of society. So is art, and so is movies.
The heart of a collector or the mind of an investor?
Heart of a collector.
Passion or ambition?
Passion.
Have you ever tried your hand at creating art?
I have.
How did it turn out?
I did it when my mom died, and it surprisingly, without my knowing it, it ended up looking similar to a silhouette of Mother Teresa. I wasn't planning it. I don't know how to paint, but yeah, it looked like that.
That's quite interesting. What's the weirdest piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, I've received so much. None of them should be shared on social media.
Just one of them?
This same kind of thing that per square foot, it is one of the best buys.
If you weren't in art or banking, what career would you have chosen?
Art only, even if I was. I told your dad this the other day that, listen, I wish I could go back and I would have started my career in art. I mean, as a collector. I don't know how would I've got the money, but yeah, that's what happened.
What's a hidden talent of yours people don't really know?
I don't have any hidden talents. In fact, I'm very self-satisfied. I'm an island and I'm highly, highly insular. So there is no hidden talent to show anyone because there's none to show.
What's the most eccentric behavior you've observed at an art auction from a gallerist, from the physical ones you have been to?
I mean, I haven't been to too many auctions. I've been to one or two, and I find it very distasteful when everything except art takes the focus. I don't like that. At least I don't like that. I'm not saying it's right or wrong.
What's the most adventurous thing you've done in the name of art?
I mean, buying things which I think were beyond what anyone would expect if they were sensible in terms of the wealth I had, the percentage I allocated to art, for sure.
Do you think that was fruitful?
I
in the long
don't care.
If you could have dinner with any artist, or living or dead, who would it be?
Souza.
What would you ask him?
I don't even know that. I want to know what he thinks about when he paints. I don't know. I think I've heard so much about his colorful character and outspoken he was, but I think I would like that, in fact. I don't like people with pretenses personally.
What do you think of art collaborations between artists? Is it a yes or a no for you?
Oh, you mean when artists make something with a celebrity? Is that what you
No, I'm saying when two artists work together or collaborate.
So that happens more in contemporary art, for sure. We've seen a lot of that. I don't think that works very well for me, at least.
What's your dream acquisition that you haven't yet?
I told you Mark Rothko, but I don't think it's happening in my life.
If you were to write a book about your journey with art, what would the title be? Which is actually
I've already got that, so I can answer that. Eternal.
I love that.
An unfinished journey.
If you could dedicate a museum wing to one artist, who would it be and why?
That's an unfair question. I would want to do it for miniatures right now. So can you imagine? It's the most democratic, egalitarian answer I can give you because it doesn't have a name of an artist. It was a genre which was amazing. It was so much a part of history, romance, the sheer quality, because all of them were working for kings.
What has been your best art moment? Your first purchase or the record-breaking sale?
No, it could be something which I bought from the net, and when it arrived, I was so delighted that I spent few days just in the happiness of having acquired a great work.
Do you have any works that come to mind when you think of that experience?
Yeah, there are lots of them, which turned out to be, because since I don't go to auctions and I don't go physically to exhibitions, I rely on my set of eyes on the catalog or on the online, which is not the best way to do it. I'm not advising anyone to do that. But sometimes, therefore, you can really be disappointed when the work arrives finally. See, there's a word called patina. You know what patina is, right? Okay, check it out. It's in furniture. It happens to oil paintings. It doesn't happen to acrylic. Acrylic is, in my opinion, again, how we have regressed. Because an oil painting takes a lot of time before you can complete it, because you have to wait for one layer of paint to dry out before you can even do the next layer. Whereas acrylic, you can finish. It dries up immediately and make it painting in 2 hours. So patina is something, as something ages, it acquires, the canvas soaks it, it gets duller. And in miniatures, you see it in furniture as it ages, if the wood is solid. Patina is a great word to look for. The patina in old works is fantastic. I hate acrylic paintings. I can share that with you. I hate them.
Is it because of the absence of patina?
No, it's just commercial. In my opinion, it's largely commercial. And it was only embraced by a lot of people because it gave them a mode to complete a painting faster in 3 hours instead of 3 months.
Okay, so who are easier to negotiate with, gallerists or bankers?
Bankers.
Art or business? Which one keeps you up at night?
Art.
One word to describe your relationship with art.
I think I'd be soulless without art.
Recently, a banana and duct tape work sold for about 6 million, which is the same price as in Amrita Shergill. How would you compare the two?
You know the fate of that banana. You know that, right? It was eaten up right away because you don't even get that banana. It was just supposed to be satire, or you can call it was just supposed to be symbolic, right? So yeah, it sold for 6 million, and I guess someone has a very lot of money. So I don't get excited by NFTs. I don't get excited by memes, which are making the new currency that has come. I don't believe in this entirely. And I think when people have too much money, that can happen. But I wouldn't even degrade or debase an Amrita by comparing the two personally. And I guess most people won't like my answer, but I would not even compare why an Amrita, any of the major paintings or any great art with that banana on a duct tape. But that's my thinking, right?
I love that answer. So between India and China, India is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. And China versus India, museum culture and art market both exist. How do we compare to them? China has come a long way in the last 10 to 15 years. The market size was similar to India back then, and now it's huge. What do you think is the one thing we can do to bolster the Indian art awareness? So is it more patrons?
No, this is exactly what your dad and your uncle Amit and I are trying to do. We have created this course called the Third Estate, in a way referring to art as not the French Third Estate, but you have real estate, and this is a third estate, because whether you like it or not, you can only correlate art in financial terms to real estate. If you have a home of 100 crores, it is easy to believe that you can have art worth 10, 15, 20 crores hanging in it. But if you had homes of 50 lakhs, you can't. Whereas you look at the West and you have some of the best homes in the US, the art is worth 10 times of the home that they live in. And of course, India is a young country. And of course, conspicuous consumption dominates right now. But how long can that stay when, I think Kiran Nadar is the first lady of India. no question about it. She has the greatest repository and vault of India's culture and heritage under her name. Who can be wealthier than her? And I'm sure once this museum opens up and people see what she has created, they would realize what they're missing themselves. And there's so many Indians who I think will join this. And we don't need one movement or one person. We need museums. We need galleries like you tomorrow. As soon as I can't wait for you to come back from college. We need, you know, maybe to some extent we are a little cog in that by trying to talk about this, get people to get educated, putting together a forum, people not just for one talk, but an entire course where you learn about art and its importance and the fact how much meaning it gives to your life. Honestly, it's not a cliche. You remove a painting and the energy changes in your home. But what would you value that at? I mean, try that. I'm telling you, painting you've seen for 10 years since you were a child, just get it removed. You will feel there's some change in energy in your home.
An absence.
Yeah, 100%.
That concludes my questions. Thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Thanks to you, Azan.
I've had an absolutely wonderful time.
And I think you're going to be one of the leading art gallerist dealers of India. And I look forward to interacting more with you in this journey. And I'll give you my mobile number. You can call me anytime.
I hope so. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.